Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
You know what time it is, so sit back and get ready for the Stafford Voice, your dose of conservative in a world of liberal.
3, 2, 1.
Hey, how you doing? I'm your host, Daniel Stafford, and you are listening to the Stafford Voice, where we are conservative in a world of liberal. Today, we're going to talk about the events of July 1st leading up to Independence Day. Before we get into that, I want to remind you that there are many, many ways to listen. You could be using TuneIn, you could be using Spreaker, YouTube, whatever your medium is. Set this channel as a favorite. Whatever you have to do so you don't get left behind. You want to stay informed. And in the case you aren't already following on social media, find me over on the Twitters at Stafford Voice, or look me up on the Facebooks. Just search for the Stafford Voice. Pretty much anywhere you are in social media, just search for the Stafford Voice. You'll find me. Give me a shout out. Say, hey, I want to know if you're listening, and I want to know what you think of the show. Also, if you haven't done so, stay up to date with some of the things going on over at thestaffordvoice.com. Every now and then we throw up a couple of hot button news issues that we feel that are pretty relevant, that need to be discussed. And if there's something that stands out to you, feel free to let us know. You know how to reach out to us, whether it be social media, or you can always email any questions or comments to me at thestaffordvoice@gmail.com. Now, before we get started, I want to hear a short, brief word about our sponsors. Some crowdfunding sites are too liberal and keep more for themselves. Even worse, if they don't like you or someone gets offended, they'll cancel your campaign. But not at RWNJ Funding. They hold true to conservative and libertarian values. Plus, they won't cave to the PC crowd. More importantly, they believe in you. RWNJFunding.com. The right cause, the right values, done right. RWNJFunding.com.
Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Nothing will protect you quite like your sidearm, so why not give it the protection it deserves? Something as strong as the Second Amendment and stands the test of time, and better yet, made in the USA. A Rebel Road Tactical Custom Kydex holster is that and more. Call now and place your order with Rebel Road Tactical at 682-217-4579. Again, 682-217-4579, or online at rebelroadtactical.com. Okay, so, the events of July 1st, 1776, leading up to Independence Day. The topic du jour, if you will. And it starts out with the Second Continental Congress. They were already assembled in Philadelphia, and they had resumed debate on Richard Henry Lee's resolution, which stated, resolved that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is, and ought to be, totally dissolved, that it is expedient forthwith to take the most effectual measures for forming foreign alliances, that a path of confederation be prepared and transmitted to the respective colonies for their consideration and approbation. Now, while debate resumed as planned, and a majority of the delegates favored this resolution, but Congress would delay the final vote until July 2nd, and they thought it was of the utmost importance to proclaim independence unanimously. And I think if you asked anybody today, they would feel the same way. But, we get a better understanding of this as we take a look at the diary entry from John Adams of that day where he recorded. And it's pretty long, but I want to share this with you. It's important. This really lays the groundwork for the days to come and the days that preceded this one. He says in his diary, dated July 1st, 1776, resolved that Congress will resolve itself into a committee of the whole to take into consideration the resolution respecting independency, that the declaration be referred to said committee. The Congress resolved itself into a committee of the whole. After some time, the President resumed the chair, and Mr. Harrison reported that the committee had come to a resolution which they desired him to report and to move for leave to sit again. The resolution agreed to by the committee of the whole being read, the determination thereof was at the request of a colony postponed till tomorrow. I'm not able to recollect whether it was on this or some preceding day that the greatest and most solemn debate was had on the question of independence. The subject had been in contemplation for more than a year, and frequent discussions had been had concerning it. At one time or another, all the agreements for it and against it had been exhausted and were become familiar. I expected no more would be said in public, but that the question would be put and decided. Mr. Dickinson, however, was determined to bear his testimony against it with more formality. He had prepared himself, apparently with great labor and ardent zeal, and in a speech of great length and all his eloquence, he combined together all that had been before written in pamphlets and newspapers, and all that had from time to time been said in Congress by himself and others. He conducted the debate not only with great ingenuity and eloquence, but with equal politeness and candor, and was answered in the same spirit. No member rose to answer him, and after waiting some time in hopes that someone less obnoxious than myself, who had been along for a year before, and still was represented and believed to be the author of all the mischief, I determined to speak. And it's been said that by some of our historians that I began an invocation to the God of eloquence. This is a misrepresentation. Nothing so puerile as this fell from me. I began by saying that this was the first time of my life that I had ever wished for the talents and eloquence of the ancient orators of Greece and Rome, for I was very sure that none of them ever had before him a question of more importance to his country and to the world. They would probably upon less occasions than this have begun by solemn invocations to their divinities for assistance, but the question before me appeared so simple that I had confidence enough in the plain understanding and common sense that had been given to me to believe that I could answer to the satisfaction of the House all the arguments which had been produced, notwithstanding the abilities which had been displayed and the eloquence with which they had been enforced. Mr. Dickinson some years afterwards published his speech. I had made no preparation beforehand and never committed any minutes of mine to writing, but if I had a copy of Mr. Dickinson's before me, I would now, after 29 years have elapsed, endeavor to recollect mine. Before the final question was put, the new delegates from New Jersey came in, and Mr. Stockton, Dr. Witherspoon, and Mr. Hopkinson, very respectable characters, expressed a great desire to hear the arguments. All was silence. No one would speak. All eyes were turned upon me. Mr. Edward Rutledge came to me and said, laughing, "Nobody will speak but you upon this subject. You have all of the topics so ready. that you must satisfy the gentleman from New Jersey. I answered him, laughing, that it had so much the air of exhibiting like an actor or gladiator for the entertainment of the audience, that I was ashamed to repeat what I had said 20 times before, and I thought nothing new could be advanced by me. The New Jersey gentleman, however, still insisting on hearing at least a recapitulation of the arguments, and no other gentleman being willing to speak, I summed up the reasons, objections, and answers in as concise a manner as I could, till at length the Jersey gentlemen said they were fully satisfied and ready for the question." Unquote. Now, as it would be, they would continue their work. And in the days to come, you will see how that unfolds if you continue listening in over the next few. And that is all we have for today. And God willing, the Stafford Voice will be back next time around. Follow me on Twitter at Stafford Voice, or look me up on the Facebooks by searching for the Stafford Voice. Email your questions or comments to thestaffordvoice@gmail.com. Thank you so much for your time, and until next one, thanks and God bless.